Hey everyone, welcome back to ONYX Pages. So, you are reading Octavia Butler, right? Yes, you are joining us for the Octavia E Butler slow read, which you know about, right? Yes? So, this video is going to be telling you about books that you can read to help you read Octavia Butler. And I'm hoping that this is going to be a helpful video for you if you have read a lot of Butler before and you, like me, want to approach her work again with additional knowledge, additional ideas, additional inquiries. So I'm hoping that this will be helpful for you. All right, so the first book that I want to talk about is Strange Matings, Science Fiction, Feminism, African American Voices, and Octavia E. Butler. This was edited by Rebecca Holden and Nisi Shawl. So I will just read the back first, and then I'll describe it to you and let you know what I thought of it. Strange Matings seeks to continue Butler's uncomfortable insights about humanity and also to instigate new conversations about Butler and her work, conversations that encourage academic voices to talk to the private voices, the poetic voices, to answer the analytic. So this is a collection of different kinds of writing. They're like highbrow academic articles, there were poems, there was life writing, there was like an interview. So there are a lot of different ways that people talked about Octavia Butler. They talked about her mind, they talked about her as a woman, as a black woman, as a writer, as somebody who was living in poverty, talked about her relationship status and all sorts of things, and of course about her writing. The contributors included Steve Barnes, Tanana Reeve-Dew, Nisi Shawl, Louisa Tish, and I also thought that Dr. Nnedi Okorafor was a contributor, but I could be wrong. Yeah, Nnedi Okorafor contributed to this, and yeah, Kendra Gill as well. So some really powerful people who have made a significant contribution to the science fiction, fantasy, black speculative arts world contributed to this. So if you want to not only learn more about Octavia E. Butler and the context within which she was writing, but also to get works that kind of get her books to talk to each other, this is a really great place to start. Especially if like you're not in the mood for a very long text from start to finish and you need it to be broken up into chapters written by different people, that might be a good place to start. And that ends the list of books I've actually read. Everything else, these are books that I purchased in the fall of 2020 when I wanted to sort of plan my nonfiction Octavia Butler reading in the months in which we weren't actually reading a book. So I'm hoping to intersperse these texts in between the books that we're reading for the slow read. So the next one is called Luminescent Threads, Connections to Octavia E. Butler, edited by Alexandra Pierce and Mimi Mondal. Luminescent Threads celebrates Octavia E. Butler, a pioneer of the science fiction genre who paved the way for future African American writers and other writers of color. Original essays and letters sourced and curated for this collection explore Butler's depiction of power relationships, her complex treatment of race and identity, and her impact on feminism and women in science fiction. Follow the luminescent threads that connect Octavia E. Butler and her body of work to the many readers and writers who have found inspiration in her words and the complex universes she created. Lots of incredible names. I'm already seeing a bunch that wow, there are a lot of contributors. Here are a few. Aliyah Dawn Johnson, Cherie Renee Thomas, Dr. Karen Lord, Nisi Shawl. Who else do I recognize? Jennifer Marie Brissett, Andrea Hairston, Jewel Gomez, Valjean Jeffers, Kathleen Kayembe, Indra Das, Nnedi Okorafor, K. Tempest Bradford, Alex Jennings, Steve Barnes. Yes. So a lot of names that I recognize and a bunch that I haven't. Like some are short. I'm seeing some short letters here, like love lingers in between dog-eared pages. So love letters to Octavia Butler. So a lot of really wonderful stuff. And this is a pretty long volume. It's about, is this 500 pages? No, just 400. But a great way to get introduced to writers who have been inspired by her. So that's Luminescent Threads. Then we have Approaches to Teaching the Works of Octavia E. Butler, edited by Tarshia Stanley. Octavia E. Butler's works of science fiction invite readers to consider the structures of power in society and to ask what it means to be human. Butler addresses social justice issues such as poverty, racism, and violence against women, and connects the history of slavery in the United States with speculation on a biologically altered future world. The first section of this volume, Materials, lists secondary sources and interviews with Butler and suggests texts that instructors might pair with her works. Essays in the second section, Approaches, situate Butler in science fiction, modernism, and Afrofuturism and provide interdisciplinary approaches from political science, philosophy, art, and digital humanities. The contributors present strategies for teaching Butler in literature courses, as well as courses designed for adult learners, pre-service teachers, and students at historically Black colleges and universities. So this is very, very like teaching oriented, which is great. I bought this because I wanted to learn more about like how to help people, i.e. myself primarily, to read Octavia Butler's work, like what kind of prompting questions might I want to use. The whole idea of teaching assumes that the learned teach the learner. I don't operate in that kind of hierarchical way. I think that learning is great when it's sort of a spiral and collective, but I do think there's something to be gained from reading a text about teaching, to see if there are things that I can use in book clubs about Octavia Butler, or when I'm putting my synopses together for the Octavia E. Butler slow read. The next one is Octavia E. Butler by Jerry Canavan. And so, drawing on Butler's personal papers, Jerry Canavan tracks the false starts, abandoned drafts, tireless rewrites, and real-life obstacles that fed Butler's frustrations and launched her triumphs. He approaches Butler first and foremost as a science fiction writer working within, responding to, and reacting against the genre's particular canon. The result is an illuminating book at how an essential science fiction figure shaped her themes, unconventional ideas, and unflagging creative urge into brilliant works of fiction. So these essays are written. There are 7 chapters, and each chapter has a period of time associated with it. So chapter 1 is Childfinder from 1947 to 1971, Psychogenesis 1971 to 1976, To Keep Thee in All Thy Ways 76 to 1980, Blind Sight 80 to 87, The Training Floor 87 to 89. So I think it feels like a literary autobiography, which is kind of interesting. So there's that. Okay, cool. All right. The second last one is Conversations with Octavia Butler, edited by Consuela Francis. And this is a collection of interviews ranging from 1980 until just before her sudden death in 2006. And it shows her her own views of herself as a writer, and kind of like the only writer like her at the time. So there's also a chronology of her life. So she was born in 1947, she dies in 2006, and it takes you through like the years that she published all of the books, when her books won different awards, when she moved from Seattle to moves to Washington, when she publishes her final novel, like all sorts of different things. So this is I love hearing Octavia Butler talk about herself, and I love hearing her in interviews. So these are all conversations with Octavia Butler. So that's that. And then the final book that I'm going to talk about is called A Handful of Earth and a Handful of Sky by Lynell George, The World of Octavia E. Butler. You'll see I haven't opened it yet, but I will open it here today. So A Handful of Earth, a Handful of Sky, The World of Octavia E. Butler offers a blueprint for a creative life from the perspective of award-winning science fiction writer and MacArthur genius Octavia E. Butler. It is a collection of ideas about how to look, listen, breathe, how to be in the world. Author Lynell George not only engages the world that shaped Octavia Butler, she also explores the very specific processes through which Butler shaped herself, her unique process of self-making. It's about creating a writer's life with what little you have, hand-me-down books, repurposed diaries, journals, stealing time to write in the middle of the night, making a small check stretch bit by bit by bit. A Handful of Earth, a Handful of Sky draws the reader into Butler's world, creating a sense of unmatched intimacy with the deeply private writer. So I'm going to open it right now. One of the things that I was really attracted to was this beautiful cover. And in keeping with my goal to talk more about book covers, I am going to talk about this one as soon as I find out more about the cover illustration. So it's a hardback book, and it's 2020 release, I believe. Oh, and the paper on the inside looks like it's her handwriting. Yeah, this is her handwriting from her journals. So that's a really beautiful edition. There's a picture of her house in the book as well. There's a lot of, just so that you can get a sense of like, oh, that's probably not helpful. So that you can get a sense of illustrations. I would say 80% text and then some illustrations sprinkled throughout. Really nice. I like the photography in this, actually. I guess that's from her gravesite. I really like the way this book is laid out. So, a week in her life, right. So, lots of pictures of things. Oh, visualization. Okay, so it looks like it actually might have, maybe this will be one of my first ones. It looks like it has exercises that you can think about if you yourself are writing. Lessons from her life. Tips on how to have a more expansive imagination. So yeah, this looks pretty interesting. So that is A Handful of Earth, a Handful of Sky by Lynell George. So that, actually, there's one more book that I want to tell you about, and that is Body Minds Reimagined. Disability, Race, and Gender in Black Women Speculative Fiction. Now, this talks about some of Octavia Butler's works, but it's not only an interpretive piece on Octavia Butler, but there are references to Kindred and the Parable of the Parables series. So I would consider this also a book that will help you interpret Octavia E. Butler's work. And that was written by Dr. Sammy Shulk. I think that was her PhD dissertation. And that is it. Those are all the books that I have in my collection that I've purchased over the years that will help me approach Octavia E. Butler's work in a more sort of thoughtful, deliberate, perhaps academic way, so that I can get the most out of her books as I continue to read and reread and reread as the years go by. If you have read any of these books, please let me know what you think of them, and if you have any suggestions as to the order that I read them in, I would love to hear that from you. And I'm going to be shouting out one of my co-hosts for the Octavia E. Butler Slow Read, and that is Musical Tati. And she's got an incredible channel. She is an OG booktuber, and she loves Octavia Butler as well. So definitely check out her channel. And of course, if you are interested in buying any of these books or any of the Octavia E. Butler books, make sure that you buy from SistahSciFi. So I'm going to shout out Isis as well. That is definitely your one-stop shop for all merchandise and books that are Afrofuturist, African Futurist, and African Jujuist. And that is it. So tell me, if they've watched the video all the way to the end, what should they put in the comments?
A film projector, camera, or a butterfly. All of things are about capturing images for future and past. And the butterfly, for me, is a symbol of what's happening right now in our lives, where it emerges in different forms and in different colors depending on the angle you look at it.
Okay. Tomi has spoken. So film camera, actual camera, and video camera, a film camera, or a butterfly.
Or projector, film projector.
Oh, film projector, camera, or butterfly. Or butterfly. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching Read with Purpose, and I will see you in my next video.